And we're live.
Okay, everybody, I think we are here. I think we are live. Let's just make sure. All right, can everybody hear us okay?
Yes, yes.
Great.
Okay, we are here with the teams back. So we haven't had this live event yet, but we're with Dr. Northrup and Magenta Pixie and Huna Flash. And this is one of our big round tables that we wanted to get everybody back together and just start to go through again where we're at. Yeah, this is, Lorraine says this is so exciting. So excited for this podcast. Yeah, we've been excited for this too, Lorraine. So anybody watching, feel free to jump on and post your questions. We've got a few updates and a couple key questions that we want to go through. So a lot of the same question that came in that we'll get to, but as you're watching, if anything jumps out at you, if you want to ask specific questions, post them and we'll try and get to as many as we can. So guys, so great to have you all here. We're super excited to talk to everybody. And I think
maybe Huna, can you possibly start us off with a prayer? We can use all the prayer we can get right now.
Sure, be happy to. Okay, thank you so much. If I may invite you to, how about I invite you to the stillness in the closed eye for a moment, yeah? Mm-hmm. From the stillness comes the sound, from the sound comes the understanding, and from the understanding comes the action. From the stillness comes the sound, from the sound comes the understanding, from the understanding comes the action. From the stillness comes the sound, from the sound comes the understanding, and from the understanding comes the action. From the action comes the understanding, from the understanding comes the sound, and from the sound comes the stillness. Ite ingwa, in the name of the vibration. Te o, the frequency. The wana, the energy, we remember you. Ite ingwa, in the name of Te whenua, the land. Te rani, the sky. Te katao, the water. Wairua tapu, we remember you. Ite ingwa, in the name of Te whaia, the mother. Matua, the father. Tama, the child. Wairua tapu, we remember you. Tihe, Maori, ora, grateful for the breath of life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Huna. Our girls have actually learned a lot of that, our 3 and 4-year-olds. So they actually walk around the house singing, Tihe, Mori, ora, ma, ha, ka. It's really, we gotta get a video for that for you, Huna. All right, guys, why don't we start off with a update? So current status quo, anything new, what's going on? Why don't we start with you, Dr. Northrup? I know you kind of had mentioned a couple things early on, so, and then we'll go from Magenta, then we'll go to Magenta and then to Huna.
Okay, great. So this morning I was on a Zoom call with Sasha Stone over in Bali, Robert David Steele, Kevin Jenkins of the Urban Global Health Initiative down in Newark, and also Maureen McDonald, Amy Gordon of Millions Against Medical Mandates, James Grunwig, who has worked with us producing content that many, many people have been sending out about the various public health things that are going on. All of us have worked for decades on the front lines of actual public health. Sasha Stone brings a rock star quality to this, and in fact, he's orchestrating a 111, 84-stop tour around the United States starting mid-May through September. And now that I and 11 or 12 of my colleagues have been targeted as the disinformation dozen, we are going to tack that on to the tour, because why in the world would someone like me or someone like Sayerji or Rashid Buttar, why would any of us ever risk our lives and our reputation For what? You don't earn more money, you earn less. You don't get more esteem from your colleagues, you get less. There's only one reason to do what we do, and that is because we can't sleep at night unless we do. In other words, where we are right now, and everyone needs to know this, we are heading for the Fourth Reich. This is Germany in the 1930s. I would, and by the way, people say, oh, please don't mention it. It makes people uncomfortable. I'd like to say, you're not uncomfortable enough. They are rolling out vaccine passports in New York City as we speak. You might as well hand out yellow armbands with the Star of David on them. What's going on the planet right now is medical tyranny, and it is all being perpetrated through the public health system, which is nothing but a body that is weaponized against humanity. And one of our lawyers, Ron Jenkins, represents an entire group of Guatemalans who were deliberately infected with syphilis by the United States Public Health Service, not unlike the Tuskegee experiment. These are the same people. Once you do the deep dive, these are the same people. So now they've created the Center for Countering Digital Hate, whatever that is. And so our disinformation dozen has been targeted, and that went out around the world. If you don't think that there's a mockingbird media, so they have, disinformation dozen are responsible for 65 to 70% of the anti on the internet. And I think to myself, wow. I'm a postmenopausal woman with a couple cats living in Maine, and I'm that dangerous? Please, people. But it just should, to me, it shows you how beautifully our message is getting out there, that they have to spend, they've targeted $2 billion to deplatform us, defund us. So I would urge everybody on here to look up the Disinformation Dozen. They've just added Millions Against Medical Mandates, a group that I've been working with for a year. So many people are clamoring to get on the list because we are going to turn the tables on this. I just heard from Vedic astrologer Joni Patri that Jupiter is about to enter Aquarius. And Aquarius is the sound of truth and the sound of freedom. So buckle your seatbelts. And then if you want to get very specific about what is in this particular public health treatment, I can get you very specifics on why you don't want to go near that. But that's my check-in at the moment. I'm also part of Maine Stands Up. We work with Make Americans Free Again with Pam Popper. And we are part of a nationwide and actually international group, because we also work with Dolores Cahill out of Ireland, the World Freedom Alliance, the World Doctors Alliance, and also Rainer Fulmick, who is the German and American lawyer who I believe is taking the public health system of some places in Europe to Nuremberg type trials. There's a lot going on. It is all coming together now.
There we go. Wonderful. Magenta, what's going on in your world?
Well, thank you. Hi. Thank you for asking me to join you. It's a real honor to be with you all. Lovely to connect with you, Huna, and you, Dr. Christiane. Yeah, I think it's really important for everyone listening to take on board what Dr. Christiane is saying. She's showing the accurate presentation on the third dimension. And for me, as a sort of spiritual teacher, a lot of people come to me because they want to feel better. They want me to talk about the higher dimensional energy and the love and the light and the galactic particles that are coming into our hearts and everything that's occurring with our move from the carbon-based molecular structure into the crystalline-based molecular structure and all the beauty that goes with that. And that is absolutely crucial, and it is the absolute real and true reality. But we can't skip the third dimension and the linear reality. And that is something we must look at. And I think a lot of people that follow me I mean, a lot do. They are absolutely in that balance. But there are others that they don't want that. And I've actually had people say to me, I come here to feel better, and then I have to hear all this. And it's true what Dr. Christiane said. We have got to be realistic about what's going on. You know, as I said back in March of 2020, this is an attempted planetary takeover. So the Nine have recently told me that everything that has happened up to this point has been preliminary. It has been a preliminary part of their agenda. And we are now entering, if you will, what they are calling phase 1 of that agenda, which would tie in with what Dr. Christiane is saying, meaning that everything is ramping up. And the agendas that they've planned for hundreds of years, now they're bringing them in. So we must be aware of that. And if we're not aware of that, then we can't make decisions as to how to deal with those things and how to help other people. But obviously, that's not the only reality. That, as Dr. Christiane said, there's all these astrological alignments, and there are all these shifts and changes that are occurring. And every time they bring in another step with their dark agenda, the light is matching that, and we are matching that. But it isn't done from, if you will, a savior point of view, where you sit there and think, I've just got to meditate, and these wonderful beings and this Pleiadian energy is going to come in, and everything is going, all this bad stuff is going to go away. The Pleiadians are us. We are the ones that have to do it. And Dr. Christiane was saying about, being called the disinformation dozen. Anyone out there speaking truth in this way with a following is going to be seen as a threat to that dark agenda. And they have multiple agendas in place as to how to deal with us. So there's lots coming, and it's important for us to be aware of these things, but we cannot be afraid of what is coming, because if we go into fear, like, oh, look, they want to do this. Is this actually true? How is this even possible? If we go there, we lose that center, that balance, and we must look at what is coming and feel that sovereignty within, as in, I take a space within me where I am immune from this agenda. It doesn't mean that you're being a fluffy bunny and ignoring it. It means that you're finding self-empowerment. But you have to take action to do that. There are things we all have to do, which is what we're doing by getting together and talking. So we are entering another phase. So whilst the agenda's coming in ever tighter, what's also happening is the energies are moving ever higher. And we are moving into this dualistic, bifurcated reality where part of it is more restriction, more manipulation. Let's bring in the big guns now and really get cracking with that agenda. And at the same time, it's more freedom, more sovereignty, more awakening, more togetherness, more connection. So it's more of an intense period. And there are some really, really positive, good energies here. People ask me, are the black hats in control or are the white hats in control? And, you could actually say that both of those are true from depending on which perspective. You could say, look, the cabal are in control right now. The black hats are in control. They're the ones calling the shots, and we are running around trying to deal with them. You could also say the white hats are in control. They've got it. We're winning. We're winning this. Both of these are true. Both of these perspectives are valid. The truth is, it is a movement, we could say, war, battle, chess game. It is a movement between the two polarities all the time, as polarity within this reality is integrating, and we are part of that integration. So it is a two-way move. And within that, there are going to be things that occur where one could perceive that that is a dark hat win or a cabal win, if you will. And then other things will happen. And this is happening now, and this is what we're moving into, where we can all see that this is a positive win, a white hat win. But really, this is all very subjective. It depends on perspective. It depends where you are and where you are viewing reality. It's more convoluted and complex, and it is more fractal than ever. And the way to deal with going through this bifurcation and fractality and extremely complex multi-dimensional reality that's pouring into the third dimension How we deal with that is staying in that cohesive unity despite all this chaos. So on the one hand, you could say reality is falling apart, it's fragmenting, and we are seeing that, and we're right in the middle of it. And from another perspective, reality is actually coming together in its true form. True reality is showing itself. And people like us, we will be targeted, but if we stay within truth, within sovereignty, within knowing, and within integrity to the very end, I truly feel and I really see that there is a shield around us all, and that shield is unity, and that's the way forward. We have got to come together on every level.
That's beautiful, Magenta.
Thank you.
And we'll come back to some of these things. I've got points to come back on each one of these. We'll get the status quo for everybody, and then we'll kind of touch base on these things. Huna, take it from there, from your perspective.
Well, thank you for having me. So wonderful to be here. Let me begin by just sharing with you. I am known as Huna Mauta Kumara Taki. That simply means light, let there be light. Simply means let there be light. That is the Lemurian language. So I am a Lemurian light being. I am an organic light being. Okay, so let me be very clear about, and I speak the Lemurian language fluently, and I can translate many light languages should people need translating. What I'm sharing is we can be here and be in this, but not be of it. So I would like to share perspective on yes, there is this reality of truth happening. But I'd like to share with you that we are no longer on Gaia. We are no longer on Gaia. The feminine has risen and the masculine has risen. Let me just share that perspective. We are no longer on the fourth earth. Tara was number 1, Maya was number 2, Sophia was number 3, Gaia was number 4. We're no longer on Gaia as of March 8th. Let me just share this perspective to everyone here and our viewers here. And this understanding, Gaia has risen, femininity has risen, where divine union is available with yourself and your communities. And so I share that perspective from the language that is before Atlantis by 65 million years before Atlantis. And let me go further. I'll go to first Lemuria, which is 550 million years before Atlantis. Okay, known as Mo'au. Mo'au is the great mountain of the world. Let me bring you to the perspective on this. As we are returning to divine union, okay, so let me invite you to the languaging and the coding within this language that is pre-Atlantis. There were 4 Lemuria, and then there were 4 Atlantis. We are catching the agendas of the final energies of Atlantis, the last Atlantis, including Egypt and the Mayan territories, and these civilizations moving back into right relationships. As Gaia has already raised, then what planet is this now? Where are we now? And my understanding, as we are moving to the language before Atlantis, we are now on a planet of living light. There's more light on this planet now than there ever was, and a very high percentage of it, as you all know. So let me share that perspective. When we speak living light planet, in the language that is before Atlantis, we know the Pleiadians to be the 9, which we speak of as Matariki. Okay, let me share this perspective so we can return right relationships to your hemispheres, your mind, your body, and the alignments between heaven and earth. Okay, as we speak to this, share this spiritual battle, if you like to share these, to speak this way. Let me share this in this way, though, that There's more light on this planet than there ever was. So we can be here and we can be in it, but not of what this transformation is happening and what is happening now. And so I share that perspective of light, the living light planet, and we speak to it in the Lemurian as Huna. Huna means one light in many, many lights in one. Hu meaning singularity, single human. Na meaning many humans. In the Mongolian language, in the Asian language, and the Vedic and the India, which are all third Lemurian civilizations, they have pieces of this. And they've shared it with you in their culture. India, Tibet, Buddha, all of these other cultures, as you may. And Europe as well as being second Lemuria. They share this with you in the modern religions and faith you have now. And these language, these moments before Atlantis, returning you back, right, to the blueprint, to undistorted light. Now in the world of a living light planet, we have a small universe, which is only tiny, that is kicking up a lot of fuss. It's only a small, it's like, and I say this sometimes and I laugh about it because it's like the end of the toothpaste, right? It's like the end of the toothpaste. And then I just dropped it on the floor. I better pick it up. And it's like the last little bit of the universe, the lowest lords of the lowest realms are kicking up a fuss. And let me put them into perspective. They are tiny. They are tiny. They are tiny to you who are in the light. They are tiny to you. And when I say you, I'm speaking to the giant star nations that are here. You, many here are part of the giant star nations from Lemuria. Many star nations, many star nations make up the tribes of Lemuria. Lemuria in its origin and its roots, and I share this perspective to you because I want to bring you into, bring the perspective of you to being here, but not of it, being in it, but not of it. And so I share this way with you, as these are many star nations are the tribes of Lemuria: Arcturian, Andromedan, Matariki, Tawu, which you know as Orion. And we bring you back to the original language so that we can remind that the tribes of the star nations that are all here, we are in the living light now, in our fractal. And that the field, your field, and you're feeling a lot. Great. I want you to feel a lot. I really do. I really want you to feel the 9. Okay, the 9 is the 9 senses. They've also been known as the 9, as Magenta speaks of this, but as the 9 senses connecting into that fractal of your 9 senses. I really want you to feel this and understand that this little thin universe of these few star nations that are kicking up a fuss, they're the lowest lords of the lowest realms. They do not have any gods backing them up. The highest lords of the lowest realms were moved into the light containers a few years ago. That being the Anunnaki and the Archon and the Draconian, the higher lords. And so what you have now is the lowest lords of the lowest realm of those same star nations, but are no longer referred to as Anunnaki. We speak to them as Naki, which means they've returned from the light containers, and even the highest lords of the lowest realms that once were, their energy has been moved into the fractal to support the living light planet. But of how this liberation and opportunity is abound now and abundant and accessible, right? Accessible. And so sharing with you this perspective, so not just empowerment, but certainly does. And you know, and many of us are sharing our modalities and our time with you personally and globally and community-wise to help empower you. But to share this with you, this understanding that we are probably 85 to 90% in the light now, in the planet of living light. I refer to this planet as Huna, planet Huna. I'm Huna, so are you. One light and many lights in one. So we are in the majority here. Now, there's all this fuss they're kicking up, right? Is the lower lords of the lower realms, and they have, it's disgusting. because they are the lowest lords of the lowest realm. Of course, they're disgusting. That's some disgusting habits. Reptiles will eat each other. Crocodiles eat each other. They eat their own babies. That's nature. What is their intention is to not cross the line into other parts of nature. So we're reminding them of that, and we have to remind them through by being more light in action against these certain agendas. And let me just share, this agenda comes from the Gregorian, the Jesuit, and the Roman calendar, the Adam calendar, right? This is a very modern calendar. Even the Adam calendar is modern. So I always share to return to right relationship of this planet is to move in rotation with counterclockwise, which is the way this planet rotates. And time and energy of the seasons rotate together in Lemuria, because the Lemurian calendar is nature. It's an operating system of nature. It supports the right relationships of the planet and the universe, very simply put. And so the other agenda is to go against nature and go and bring the illusion of time, split like this. It splits seasons, energies this way, time in another direction, splits it and pulls everybody back in. But that's no longer the system now. If we are moved, a large percentage of the system is now back in Lemuria, age of Lemuria. We are in the age of Lemuria 5. The Kumaras entered 30 million years ago to ensure that Lemuria 5 would be guaranteed. And so as I share this with you, we can be in it, but we are not of it. There's more to share on these perspectives and these technologies. I just came back from Stargate number 17. It's at Lake Titicaca, which is the hummingbird Stargate. The hummingbird is my birth sign. My old birth sign in the Gregorian is Aquarius. It is no longer Aquarius. It is now the hummingbird. Spoken of in the Lemurian language, it is Tirani Motu, which means the caller of the gates, the tiny voice from heaven. Now, I just came back from Lake Titicaca. So many wonderful revealings have come through. Let me just share with you, we can be in this, but not of it. And there's a multiple dimension of ways that we can be in it and not of it. And so if we go back to the basics and make this personal, we remove the scopes of horrors and receive your Lemurian birth signs, which is, again, everything before Atlantis and a long time before Atlantis, right? And we're sharing that with you. So I just came back from Stargate 17 in Lake Titicaca in Bolivia 2 weeks ago. Of course, number 17 is Q, right? There's so many alignments here. The new currency note came out from Costa Rica. I was just shown that a week ago. It has a hummingbird on it. It has a hummingbird on it. And so we can be here and in this, but not of it. And so if I may just, I know we've got a lot more to speak about. There's a lot of points here we can all touch on. It's great. Okay. And so thank you, and look forward to listening and sharing more.
This is so exciting. I was jumping in my skin last night, thinking about just tapping into the energy of this discussion, thinking even how inspirational and powerful, not only is it for us to be gathered here, but also everyone tuning in. I feel I'm picking up on their excitement as well. These conversations are so powerful, so needed, and they bring the necessary perspective that we need to have, because Dr. Northrop, I look at you and I see boots on ground, and you have been for decades doing what you do, and just having the impact that you've had. And Magenta, I mean, if it wasn't for what we're currently experiencing, this pandemic, I wouldn't have even have met you. And I'm so grateful for having met you, just 6 months ago, maybe we came across Magenta's content, and like, I adore each and every one of you. So you channel in the 9. And we might talk about that a little bit more as well, because Huna taps into his 9 senses in order to speak of the light, the frequency, the magnetics, the land, the water, what am I missing there? Land, water, sky. So these conversations, I think, will fill in so many gaps, but also point to blind spots that perhaps people didn't even know they had. And it becomes this exploratory endeavor to sit with some of these concepts that might be new to you, for those of you who are tuning in and hearing maybe Huna speak for the first time, or perhaps you've tuned into Dr. Northrup, but you haven't listened to any of Magenta's concepts and information. So be patient with the information and the frequency that is coming through. Oftentimes it's like a right brain massage. So it takes time to kind of fully integrate what is coming. We're so grateful for everything that you guys are sharing. Thank you.
Well, and I get asked a lot of times too, it's like, isn't this a health show about health? Why aren't you talking about vitamins and minerals and hormones and how to manage your weight? And it's like, yeah, we do some of that. But what's come to me, and mostly after following Dr. Northrup early on around this, was just, it's like anybody who has a platform, and regardless of whether you have a platform or not, it's like, if you want to talk about health, you can't talk about health if you don't talk about this big picture that's going on. Otherwise, there's going to be no health. Like, this is really important. So to me, it's sort of like, and when you start to look at health in a bigger picture anyways, you kind of have to look at all of it. It's like physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. How are we thinking? What's going on? How's that making us feeling in our body? There's so many different things that we need to be aware of. And there's so many pieces here, but one thing that really jumped out to me that I think was really important, Magenta, when you were talking and it was an episode you did a while back, you specifically talked about the savior point of view and that time is done. And I think that was such an important thing to mention. And that's something that Tay and I have been talking about for quite a while. And because I did feel like with all of this, even the sort of like sit back and have your popcorn, I think people kind of were taking that as like, I can just kind of sit back and let it kind of happen. And what we feel right now, and this was something that also Oracle Girl had talked about, Jacqueline Hobbs, and she was saying, stuff is coming closer and closer and closer and closer until it's right smack in your face. And eventually you have to start to actually do something. And this is when Huna talks about light in action. And I feel like all of you are the epitome of light in action. And to us, what I think and what I want the viewers to kind of pick up on is like, what does that mean now for you? So it's important to kind of watch this information, but what do you do now? Because there is no, you can't, like we read this back, we were reading some of the Seth material like a year back, and they were talking about this sort of, I can't remember the exact wording around it, but it was talking about almost like a Christ energy coming back, right? And Taya was talking about that to me and kind of like, does that mean there's going to be like a new sort of almost like a Christ coming? I said, and I was like, no, like the only thing that makes sense to me is that we all embody that Christ consciousness and we become our own sort of quote unquote savior, or we become the light in action. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, because the time of putting our power in the hands of somebody else is done. It's just, doesn't work. We kind of need to step into our own grace. And so when you mentioned that in one of your talks, that really stood out to me as being a really important thing. And so I guess at this point, what I would like to kind of invite the conversation around would be then, what does that mean to be light in action? And I can tell you one thing, like, so for an example, from our point of view, from a practical point of view of what we're doing here right now, to us, it's sort of making a decision of, and this was partly what Oracle Girl would talk about too, was like, you know, how do you continually move closer and closer to that authentic part of yourself and then live from that place without censorship, without you censoring your own, without you censoring that own connection to your authentic part of yourself. And that can be really challenging sometimes. I mean, I'll give you an example. Just the other day, it would be me going into, well, part of it would be us making the choice to then only support communities that are open around, say, honoring mask exemption. It could be that simple. So now we're making a conscious choice with our time, our money, our focus to not actually go places that don't honor that. We're finding a community, we're finding places where they are open to that. And we went into the store the other day, and this was a store out here in Victoria, and we went in and the owner saw us, our whole family in there with no masks and everything, and he came out and just shook our hand. And it's like, I feel like it's the point now is you can't just sit back and watch other people doing it. How do you start to become that light in action on a daily basis? So maybe I can put that back to each one of you, starting with Dr. Northrop, because I mean, you are a master at this. So maybe talking about what that means, and for the people out here, what we can start to do, because this is the next phase. We have to now start to do stuff.
Yes. You know, because I had spent a year, well, the truth is I've spent decades on the front lines of this. I did not give to my own children. So I've known about what health is for a very, very long time. And I have been on the front lines of telling the truth about Gardasil, mammograms, folic acid, omega-3 fats, breastfeeding, you know, just the whole delayed cord clamping. How about we not remove 40,000 nerve endings from male genitalia at birth? This kind of thing. And so when this whole thing started, it was not new, but it was on steroids. Like suddenly, whoa, everything that I have been saying is now being canceled. I mean, openly criticized in a way that was just shocking to me. I didn't know what cancel culture was until about a year ago. And by the way, I started to listen to Magenta about a year ago. Thank you very much for being there. It was enormously helpful to me. And now, Huna, you're a whole other deal. And I've been reading Barbara Marciniak, Bringers of the Dawn, and Starseed Transmissions and all of that for years. So what I want everyone to know is that I'm enormously optimistic. I have known about this, what Daniel Giamario, shamanic astrologer, calls the turning of the ages. And we are in it. And we signed up for it. And I had a wonderful Christian healer say to me, she said, I've never heard of this. I'm getting that you were called from some star to come here now and lead an army of light. You're a general in the army of light. And I thought, well, that makes as much sense as anything. So what I have done, and it started about a year ago, 4/4/2020, 4/4/4, and there was a planetary meditation. And I did know from the Journal of Conflict Resolution that when a massive number of people all meditate at the same time, it changes the Schumann resonance of the earth. And so what I did was I did a Facebook Live or a little something. And I said, we all should do this. We should all just get together and meditate at this particular time on this particular day, because this is a portal. And there have been many of those since then. And I thought I would do 40 days. Well, I ended up creating an online community that's completely unstructured. And a woman decided to call us the Warriors of the Radical Light, because back then you were getting canceled if you were left or if you were right. And all of these distinctions of splitting us make no sense. I also wrote a book called Dodging Energy Vampires. I didn't know that was predictive programming for what Huna has given me the name for, the lowest of the low dark lords. It's a great way to think of them. Then what I did, having met with Pam Popper on a brain trust group, and by the way, we have a clubhouse every Friday on the Clubhouse app called the Brain Trust. And then we have a 1-hour conversation with Dr. Lawrence Palevsky, Tom Cowan, Andy Kaufman. These are the scientists who basically can prove that the germ theory is an obsolete way to think about things. But, you know, we talk about that, Renette Senham, all of that. So I did that. But I would say the most empowering thing that I did, and I want everyone to know this, was to find like-minded people, bring them into my home, no masks, no social distancing. And together in our state, we created an organization called mainstandsup.org. And if you go to that website, you will also see a lawsuit that we filed against our governor and against the Maine CDC. And God sent the lawyer, Ron Jenkins, to us. And so now it's a group all over the state, because a bunch of us started to meet last March another couple doctor friends, and we said, this is nuts. We knew that it was crazy from the beginning. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And there have been thousands and thousands of lawsuits that have been filed and removed because, well, there's a pandemic. Well, you can prove that there really never has been. But, they have the Dark Lords are pulling the levers and all of that. But to finally find the people who are with us, who don't cancel us, to get together. We go to restaurants like you were talking about, where there's no masks. We found one in Augusta, Maine the other day. We're the group, we have a Signal group where everyone, does the intel so that you're not censored. We now have created a wonderful statewide group, and they've done the same in Ohio. They've done the same in New Mexico, Michigan. It's all over the place. So if you just go to makeamericans.freeagain.com, you'll see the structure, how you do a Thursday night meeting, and you can do it anywhere in the world. The main thing is to take action, because when you take action, it's a win. Your immune system is enhanced by getting together with like-minded people. We know that community equals immunity. So what have the Dark Lords done? They've taken away the very things that boost our immunity. So now we've had a solid year of fear porn on mainstream media with a mask on so that you're not breathing freely. Now, this is the perfect setup to weaken humanity so that the kill shot comes in. And that's where we currently are. And now the passport thing. But at the same time, as Magenta said, which I love, the light is getting so light that miraculous things are happening, where the right people just show up and the right things begin to happen. But you have to stay on that high trajectory. There are podcasts where they say what's going on in 3D that I will not listen to, because if I do not keep my vibration high with love, with hope, with community, with the right information, light-filled action, then it's no fun. It's got to be fun. It needs to be uplifting, and just getting two people together is winning. We have to now start winning. And we win by what we focus on, who we let into our lives. And of course, I try with every scrit of my background to tell people the truth so that they can make their own decisions. I would never tell anyone what to do. But I have had some success with sending people information, and then they cancel their appointments for not as many as I would like, but I always remember that it only takes from 1 to 3% of a population. Then this is the work of Stephen Greer and many others, at a high frequency vibration, to change everything, like overnight, like immediately. And we are certainly getting there. That's the paradigm shift, where we all vibrate at the same. And if you look at that YouTube video of metronomes, and I would recommend everyone do it. So they begin by having these metronomes, and they're all over the place. And after about 2 minutes, they're all going the same. And that's what we are doing by the discipline of keeping it high vibe. It's very easy to go negative. We know, for instance, it's much easier to make warts come out on the body through hypnosis than it is to get rid of them. We are programmed for fight or flight. We're programmed to go negative. The discipline is to choose something that is light-filled instead of the dark agenda, because the Dark Lords, here's what I say to people, they feed on human anger and fear. Stop feeding them. Let's starve them out.
Yeah, beautifully said. And I think a really important message in that too is, when you are doing it, I get how heavy it can get. I mean, I think we've all sort of experienced when it gets pretty heavy, but it reminds me too of, like, Huna, when you were talking about in the world but not of it. It was actually one of my favorite teachers, Dr. David Hawkins. One of his favorite CDs that I would listen to was "In the World but Not of It." And in that, he talked about one of the quotes that he said, Jesus said, would beware the world like a loose garment. So be aware of it. know that it's there, but don't let it be so restrictive and heavy that it stops you from being able to actually have fun in the world too. And I feel like that's what we're trying to do right now too, is as much as this can be very serious and everything, you know, if you can find a way, and it's one of the things I love about you, Dr. Northrop, you always find a way to laugh about other things and yourself and all of it. And it's like, he would talk about humor being such an important quality for spiritual growth, because it changes the context instantaneously of a situation. And then you can move into those higher states of consciousness without trying to make it happen. So thank you very much. Magenta, as far as what light in action means to you and how we can start to embody that as we're moving forward here.
Yes, I mean, same thing really that Dr. Christiane said. It is about laughing and finding joy and allowing yourself to have that fun in your life. And I think it's really difficult for people who are not in that multidimensional way of thinking, because they might see people like us getting together and smiling and laughing while we're talking about this and while we're talking about everything that's going on, and think, well, you know, this is just dire, this is just awful, it's just dreadful, how can you laugh? And the thing is, you do access both. You are aware, like Dr. Christiane said, you are aware of what is going on, but you don't push yourself into it. You don't have to watch all that stuff. If you want to watch a video, watch something informative that's making you feel empowered at the same time. I'm not saying don't feel fear. It's normal to feel fear when you discover these things, but then you go away and you find a way to integrate that fear, and you allow the fear to move you forward and assist you in taking action. So everything you're all talking about, everything Huna is talking about, everything Dr. Christiane is saying, is what the 9 are calling New Earth. So Huna said about us moving from, you know, his model of the sort of 5 stages of Lemuria and back into that. And absolutely, that's exactly what the 9 tell me. It's the same thing. We are moving back. Instead of coming from the light levels down through the Lemurian fields into physicality, we are now moving from physicality back up through the Lemurian fields back to where we were. But we're taking all this accumulated knowledge with us. And what we are trying to do is retain that within our DNA so that we can take that back up with us. And that is us retaining memory. So what's occurred here with this amazing plan, starseed template, if you will, or positively polarized plan, or plan of light, or New Earth plan, is every individual that is part of this, which is every individual incarnated today, will have come in with a blueprint of this experience that they will have in this reality. And that will include the blueprint of moving from old Earth into New Earth, or from 3D into 5D. Now, along the way, some people are going to be making choices that maybe were not in that blueprint, because the choices, you take the blueprint down into the experience that you are living. So you make the choices in real time, and that higher memory, higher guidance system, the 9, always guiding you back to that blueprint. And the reason why I come to the blueprint is when you ask about taking action, every individual is here, if you will, for a reason. And I know that sounds like a spiritual cliche, but it's true. There are individuals here that are here to work with media, and they may be fully asleep and parroting the false narrative, and then something happens and they wake up, they have all these memories, and then they realize that what they're doing isn't in alignment. And it just so happens that they've been decided to write an article, and that article is talking about something different outside of that false narrative. And then you have people in the health movement that may be in mainstream health services that are seeing for the first time things that they didn't realize they'd ever seen before, and they want to do something about it, but they don't know what to do. And then you have people in the financial arena that are thought that everything was great, and they were very happy that they got their job and they'd done so well at university or college, and now they're being asked to do things that just doesn't sit right with them anymore. It doesn't sit right with their integrity. And they're thinking, can I do this? And so they try and do something out of integrity, but it makes them feel awful. And that does include and all the family that are involved with the. So what I'm saying here is that everyone is here to do something. And when people wake up within this great awakening and access that memory, they will remember what they are here to do, or they will be guided into positions where they can do the things that they're here to do. But the truth of it is, when they are in alignment with that joy and that goodness and that positivity, they will have already have been in that system for potentially 20 or 30 years. They're already in place. They're ready. And so when they wake up, they have the opportunities there to do something. And a lot of people are in that position now. And what's stopping them is they're waiting for someone else. It's like when someone else makes the big move, then I'll make the big move too. When someone else stands up and says, no more, I'm going to do that as well. But until someone tells me what to do, I can't make that move. And that's kind of where we are right now, on the precipice, waiting to make this move. And the thing is, I don't know how we will get to make that move, make that leap, but we will. And when we do, when we make that move together with awareness and sovereignty and integrity, and we stand up and we say no, all of us at the same time, then the positive polarization movement of New Earth will just be too big, too widespread, and too strong for that dark group to be able to deal with, because they are a much smaller group, much. We've heard this. We are the 99%, they're the 1%. That's, somewhere within accuracy. We are the people. So when it comes to taking action, that's going to be subjective and different for each person. And inside, I would say to everybody, where are your opportunities? Where are you? What job are you in? What situation are you in with family? What have you learned your whole life? What's your hobby? What are your dreams? What's the thing that you wanted to do? When you start to have joy with it, instead of worry, when you start thinking to yourself, I know that this is dreadful and this is awful and what's happening is terrible and frightening, but the law of attraction is still there. Unity is still there. Spirituality is still there. The higher dimensional energies are still there. And not only are they still there, but they're there more than they've ever been. As Huna was saying, this is a world of more light than we've ever experienced. So when you move into that and you find that joy and that bliss and euphoria, despite everything else, and you integrate all of that, that's when you can take action. And it's going to be different for each and every person. For me personally, it's get online, talk about the stuff that you're picking up, because my role is sort of an interpreter of that higher dimensional energy. But for someone else, it could be working with children. It could be driving transport. It could be that they have public transport and they are going to say, no, you don't need to wear a mask to come on here. No, you don't need to show me a proof. And I really, truly believe we're on the precipice of that now. It's like people are just waiting for that sign to make that quantum leap and stand up together. And when it happens, it's just going to be beautiful. But at the same time, there is if you will, a huge spiritual lesson, an opportunity for individuals to move into that blueprint that they created before they were born. And there are some individuals who have strayed from the blueprint and moved away from the blueprint. So they've made other choices. And there are others that are in the process of making that choice. So there are so many levels at play here. You can't get it wrong because there's always going to be another chance for you. But having said that, this is the time that we make this leap into ascension or New Earth now. We're in it. So now is the time for us to realize that and say, okay, I've just listened to Magenta Pixie speaking. I want to know what it is within me that I can do. Look around you. What are your tools? What do you have? What situation are you in? And if there's nothing in the physical world, what's going on inside. What are your thoughts? What are your dreams? What are your talents? What are you good at? And when you start to work with this, and the universe can sense you are working with this, or instead of saying the universe, the inner memory system, the inner knowing knows that you are working with this, magic starts happening, and you start getting all these signs and synchronicities showing you what it is that you can do to take action. That's where we are, and nothing can stop this from happening. No matter how bad things look on the physical level, nothing can stop this quantum leap of humanity. It's absolutely set in all timelines. It is an eventuality. It is an inevitability. And we are on the precipice of it right now.
I love it, Magenta. I feel like I need to stand up and cheer. So. But you also mentioned around timing. Yeah. Timing and synchronicity. When we were talking to Lee Carroll Cryon a while back, and we were talking about sort of this, when is it time to make that shift? When is it time to make the move? And we were talking then around, that's when the synchronicities start to line up. You start to see these things. There's signs that things are moving. You're kind of already ready. If you're already thinking it, I think you're already just about there. And then I know for us, one thing that we tend to do is to me, it's always when I feel like the feeling of inspiration and excitement for what I'm wanting to move towards outweighs the fears and the worries around what might happen if I do it. So to me, I know like then as soon as I get to that point where it's like, okay, I'm more excited and inspired about what I'm moving towards as opposed to worried or fearful about what I'm leaving behind, that's the time. And so I would implore everybody, like self-check on stuff like that. And what Magenta is talking about, like it's all individual. It's all individual. Everybody's got to find their own. That's the light in action. And everybody needs every single individual beautiful light right at this point in time. Huna.
Yes.
We're up. Mr. Light in Action. So.
Thank you, Dr. Northrup and Magenta Pixie. And wonderful sharings. And okay, so sharing, I came back from Stargate number 17. In other words, I went to do a specific part of my mission is 48 Stargates. I have a mission. I know what it is. And it's the new Earth birth system for the birthing system for the child of light. It is untouchable. So my number 17 is 17 Stargates out of 48 that I'm raising the frequencies on the angelic frequency, child of light frequency, and the light of peace from the dove. Those three frequencies that align to these Stargates. I share this with you this way, not just to brag about myself, because I'm this big guy that goes to Stargates. I'm sharing with you because this is my mission, to ensure and guarantee that the planet of living light receives the highest light of the beings that are coming into being through the birth channel, and impervious to these mechanisms of the lowest lords of the lowest realms. Let me say, they're impervious to this. Now, part of this, what I'm sharing is that I go to do protocols. They are highly super intelligent and highly technical, of Lemurian origins. What I'm saying is, I go when I link in and do my mission there at the sacred places. I'm inviting you, all of you, everyone watching, and you may have some of this in your memory, and you may be even doing some of this now, right? You are trained from many lifetimes, as many beings that you have been. You have the training. You have had the training. You've had the experience. You have this. You were many gods and many goddesses. You were many of the high lords of high places and also high lords of the low places. You have these experiences. Someone is sharing with you, or is going to share with you, to not just share with you a workshop, but to do a shake-up. Okay, so they're going to shake you up. This is shaking you up. Light in Action will shake you up. And as I share with you the places to go to, and they can be just by the water, okay, to be in a moment, if alone or with others. What you are doing is calling in the technical support for this planet. We share it this way. It is highly spiritual, it is highly electrical, and it is highly super intelligent when you go to speak your words and your intentions, whether speaking with breath or not, whether just standing in meditation. You are calling in the ascended masters of technical support. And they are not only in the spiritual, they are right here with Magenta Pixie. You're calling in her fractal, because her fractal knowledge has the wisdom and knowledge, and she's a technical support for this planet. We are, and let me put it that way. If I can put it that way, this may be more simple to, easier to digest without going through all of the other things. And so, and as you are being in these places to speak this way, you are becoming technical support also. We take it out of the spiritual realm and just share with you. You are incredible, highly super intelligent technical support for the living light. Whether you live alone, whether you have family support, whether you, as you come to this in this way, we are your support. You are my support. Okay, so to put that into perspective for light in action. And certainly there's modalities to receive. There's opportunities to receive alignments and protocols to support you quite easily. They're available now. More of this knowledge and information, wisdom is more available now than it ever was. Let me keep saying along that line. As there is more light available than there ever was, there's more wisdom and knowledge that's available than there ever was. Some things you can Google. If you can't, speak to some of the elders. Now, let me just share as we talk about communities. I am Maori. I come from New Zealand. I was born and raised in the Maori culture, which is a navigator lineage. I was born in the navigator lineage of the canoes, of the ancient canoes. Now, what that means is I come from a tribe. And so my tribe is Ngāti Rangi Nui and Ngāti Rangi and Ngāti Kahununu. These are my two tribes. My starship canoe is the Takitumu, which is an ancient reincarnated canoe. It's a starship aligned to Sirius B and Sirius A. In other words, Rehu and Kahu and the Lemurian frequencies. And so this is who I am. I in a very simple way, to share with you, to go down this pathway of learning who you are and knowing who you are. You can quite easily, even in this modern times, go back to the Valhalla, go back to the Longhouse, go back to the wigwam, go back to the teepee, go back to the medicine lodges. These are the origins of our ancient ancestral potentialities and historic ancestries. Through the Longhouse is the womb, and in the womb, the Longhouse teaches the womb technology, the technologies of the blueprint within the womb, represented by the Longhouse. We are all on this planet, every star nation and being are of the Longhouse traditions. There is no escaping that, as the Longhouse represents the womb, both terrestrial and celestial. And so as we're sharing your pathways, these pathways to light in action, begin there. Re-examine yourself. Clear your space. Live simply if that need be. Remove the things that really don't need. And that will also give you clarity and a moment to see through the clutter, right? You know, you can, unless you live like a hoarder and you like hoarding things, you can hoard all kinds of stuff, all kinds of energies, not just furniture and belongings, materials. So you can hoard all kinds of energies and you just won't let it go. Loosen the grip on yourself, right? And allow that space to open so you can replace it with the wonderful energies and the joy. Now, being technical support, it doesn't just mean being serious all day long, right? Somebody just asked the question, how did you get through all the travels you just did without taking a PCR test? Well, let me share again, as my light as a light in action, I have this tendency to be somewhat of a pirate, somewhat of a rebel. And let me quote Huna Mareka, which is David Mahoney, and he calls it raccoon pirate. He calls it raccooning around. We just get into these things and we'll start figuring it out, right? So we use their game against them. Oh, okay, so we need a PCR test. Okay, we need a document. Oh, so we just need a document. We don't need the test. We just need a document. I can find a document. So I went and I found a willing person to supply a document, and I got the document. No one said I should have a test to get a document to get on it to travel. They just said needed a certificate. Now that was, we did that many times. We found a willing agent to support this. Now let me just share also, there was one time we did take a test, and it was on my last journey home, but this was incredible. And I have to credit again Huna Mareka for doing this. So we go and visit an agent, a doctor, a clinic, and we tell the guy we need to get this test done so we can get the documents. And he goes, okay, we're going to give you this test and we're going to shove this thing up your nose. And we're like, oh no, you're not sticking anything up our nose. And so Mareka goes in and he says to the guy, look, we're not doing that. This is why. If you stick that up our nose and you touch our third eye, you're disconnecting our connection to our ancestral and our lineage and our people. And he hit the guy with this really right in the face. And the guy said, and the doctor says, oh, and a light went on. The light in action went on. His light went on. And you go, okay, fair enough. Well, we'll just do a saliva test. So it was a saliva test. All he did was tickle my tonsils. So we're in this clinic going, he's got this thing, just tickling our tonsils. We're all in and go, and all you hear these noises in the clinic. Now people around there in Bolivia are going, what's going on in their room? So joy, light in action, trigger the light in others, and including where these documents are concerned. We found out that at the gates, and this is what Magenta is actually correct about this, we will find the angels at the gate. We'll at the portals, at the airports, and the bus station. We'll find the angels because we're going up and then we find out that, okay, they ask you for the document and we go, here it is. And then all they're doing, all they do is they look at this number, that number, then okay. They don't scan it. They don't because they're getting swamped by thousands of people at the counter. So here's a technique for you as a pirate, as a smuggler, as a former pirate smuggler, maybe, I don't know. Just go in and rush them. Everybody go in and rush those guys and overwhelm them. Overwhelm them with the light. Overwhelm them with your intentions are of light, of course. You're not there to hurt anybody or yell at anybody. So overwhelm them with your presence. But you must do this. Find who you are in a very simple way. If you are from Scandinavia, if you're from Germany, if you're from the UK, if you're from Ireland, go in deep, and I will invite you to return to Lemuria, and you will find the blueprint there. I will invite. That's very simple to do. Very simple to do. Light in action. Find who you are. Get onto it really quick. Become the technical support for the intentions and the intentions of others. If you can see it, if I can share it that way. And within that, you're going to have a lot of fun. Seriously, you will have a lot of fun. You will crack up laughing some of the things you're going to discover, and you will discover the angels at the gates. They will be there waiting for you. I have been witness to this for many years as I have traveled many, many, many countries every year. And so if I can share that with you, I thank you.
Thank you. That was beautiful. For fellow pirates who are traveling into and out of Canada or back into Canada as Canadians, just to let you know, on a side note, check out Chris Sky's information, Chris, C-H-R-I-S, Sky, S-K-Y. He's brought a lot of awareness around our rights as Canadians. and what you can do and what you can say specifically to get back into the country without having to take the test. And the government is requiring quarantine right now, but you can also deny the quarantine. And what you will get as a result is the only thing that's going to happen is that they will give you a fine, accept the fine. None of it is being held in court.
Can I just add? Yes, be brave, right? Can I give an example? Is it all right? Sorry. I was on my way to Ireland to do one final ceremony last year. And they had gone into lockdown just as I was getting off the plane. So I got at the counter and the guy said, "Sir, you can't be here. You cannot go." And I said, "I'm coming in. I'm going to stay at a hotel. I'm going to do this one thing. I've got some friends to meet." And this was in the middle of it. And he goes, "So you can't do that." And I'm like, "Look." And I started arguing with the immigration office guy right in front of everybody with all the lines. I just went at him. I stayed on my light and I went right at him. I had some courage. And he said, "So I can arrest you." I said, "You're going to arrest me? Go ahead. But let me remind you something. Our relationship between Ireland and New Zealand is precious. Well, why you want to mess that up for?" So I just went at him and he got frustrated. He said, "Okay, you got 24 hours. I said, "Great. I only needed 8 hours, but I will do my ceremony in 24 hours and leave. Thank you very much." So be brave, be courageous. Thank you.
I think that's really important too,
Yeah,
Huna, because
absolutely.
even when you said, you went at him, oftentimes people think that light in action means being complacent, nice, and easygoing. That's not what we require right now. If you look at any of our guests here, including us, we have no issues in standing up. And when something is not right, we will state it. And we will be very clear about that. So as far as being strong in your sense of self and sovereignty, knowing who you are, that sometimes requires a very loud, stern, strong, firm, no, enough. So that's a really good point that I just wanted to emphasize.
So great, so great. And courage is absolutely something that I think we all need right now. And I remember even and I talk about this a lot because Dr. David Hawkins was one of my main teachers, but when you look at the scale of consciousness, courage is the level that tips the point. That's the tipping point. Courage is at the level of 200. That's when you move from sort of stuff that is more anti-life to stuff that is more pro-life. So courage is the point that if we can all kind of resonate at the level of courage, it opens up the door to everything else.
Everything else, give a few examples.
Everything else to whether that then goes to acceptance and willingness and all the way up to things
Joy.
like love and joy and peacefulness. But it starts with courage. So I think well said. I think the other part that I wanted to, and this reminds me, Dr. Northrup, of in our interview that we did, we talked specifically around that at one point. We were asking the difference between this idea of acceptance versus passivity, because I feel like a lot of times spirituality ends up almost becoming a complacent passivity as opposed to it's like sometimes you got to pull the sword out and be the warrior in the spiritual place. And it's not just sort of sitting back being kind of the Zen all the time. You have to kind of know when to move those back and forth. And you are absolutely a warrior in action. So.
Well, I'd like to say something about that because I got a call from a 30-something friend in New York City, and he said, "Well, I'm going to have because it's going to be necessary for my career." And this is the point. This is that 200 point of courage. And what I said to him is, well, if you get there's a very good chance of pathogenic priming. And if you're dead, that's a whole lot of work that you're going to miss. And so sovereignty is this, and everyone on this call has it. And it's this. That's a line in the sand. I am not doing that. If I have to, this is what you have to do, people. If I have to stay in my backyard for the rest of my life, I will do it. Now, there's something so interesting about that line in the sand. Once you draw it and you say, this is never, not doing it. That's when providence comes in. Providence does not come in until you take that stand. And now we're back to the savior thing that Magenta was talking about. As long as you're waiting for a savior to tell you what to do, you are a slave. And at this point, that's what they're counting on. And so what have we done for my entire career, and really the last 100 years, definitely ever since the Flexner report shut down all of the actual healing schools? What we've done is we've put the doctor in the white coat with the stethoscope is the false idol that we have all been worshiping. And I have to tell you, I am disgusted in the most light-filled way with my colleagues. The wind blew slightly, and all these yoga teachers and all these functional medicine people and all these spiritual teachers and all of these people just folded. I am no different in my message than what I've been doing for 35 or more years. No different. It's like that quote, I did not leave medicine. Medicine left me. And a ton of my colleagues have left me. What do I get every day on Facebook? Oh my God, I've loved your work, but what happened to you? And you've become a this and a that, and go read my Wikipedia profile. It's got a good quote though, I like it. Okay, she's a woke gynecologist with strange ideas about the vagina. Good, I'll take it. The other stuff, not so much. But you know, the dark lords at the deepest level, changed all of our Wikipedia profiles. Huna, I love the raccoon pirate thing. I am so that. I mean, so that. And if you realize you're just dealing with people, I want to tell you the story about a nurse friend of mine. She works right at our tertiary medical center, the big kahuna of medicine in our state. And she gave a kid a flu, and she went home and threw up. Her body said, I can no longer participate in this. So she went back and she told her supervisor, I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. And by the way, I also testified in, if you really want to get into 3D gnarliness, go and testify before the legislature, which I have done and my colleagues have done. And it's a one flew over the cuckoo's nest experience, I must tell you. Anyway, her supervisor said, well, you're probably going to get fired, so prepare to clean out your desk. She said, fine. Okay, fine. That's what I'll do. The next day was her annual review. Nothing was said. Nothing. And to this day, they have said nothing. You want to know why? Because we have a nursing shortage at this point. All of these frontline warriors of light called nurses are saying, you make me do that, I'm going to quit. Now, my profession has lost their mind. I took a Hippocratic oath. They obviously didn't, including a lot of my colleagues in the American Holistic Medical Association, who went right along with the mask, right along with the thing, right along with the social distancing, none of which makes any sense whatsoever. So I'm wondering, and I'd love to have Huna weigh in on this and Magenta as well. It feels to me that once you have this thing, you've made an evolutionary choice this time around. I know that everyone's going to make it eventually, but this time around at the great bifurcation, you have just done something to your body that is not reversible. This is not like a flu jab. This is, then, okay, good, eat cilantro, get the heavy metals out. That's what people actually believe. This is not it doesn't meet the criteria for this is a platform for creating cyborgs. This is a platform to change what it means to be human. And they're now experimenting on newborns who already, by the way, we've talked pregnant women into getting a flu jab and a DPT. That happened after I stopped delivering babies. And when I heard it, I said, what happened? That's got mercury in it. And then 99% of newborns get Hepatitis B, jab 15 times the recommended amount of aluminum. I would like to shake pregnant women. What happened to your mother bear instinct? What happened to you? And there's a part of me that goes, I've done all I can do. Let them go. I'm not their higher power. I'll give them the dignity of their timeline, but honest to God, wake the F up. Anyway, that's my rant.
We love your rants, Dr. Northrup.
Well, and we'll go right into that one too in a sec here.
Mhm.
But even when you're talking about that with the mother bear instinct, that's come up lots too in some of the different conversations we've had, and that Taya's been having through the Adventures in Joy platform too. And one favorite ask for everybody watching too is that right now, a lot of the algorithms for things are changing to make material like this hard to get out. So what helps more than anything is to, if this resonates with you, then share it, get it out. This is ultimately how this information circulates and gets out, because it's not coming by the algorithms in Google and YouTube. This stuff is actually trying to be pulled down. So if you are able to, this is where like it, share it, get it out there and subscribe it, just move the messages around and you let the words get spread. But around the mother bear, this has been something like, so like right now, I think in Canada, it just was like now everywhere from grade 4 up is all mask mandatory all day long in schools.
It actually depends on where you are in Canada. So in Ontario,
in Quebec,
it's earlier on, and kids as early as grade 1 have to be in mass all day, every day, 7 hours a week, whether they're indoors or outdoors. In Quebec, they have a curfew as well. Everybody has to be in 8 o'clock at night. Recently, they changed that due to the time change to 9 o'clock. In BC, so we're in the west end of Canada here, they're just starting to, we thought we would be immune to all of that, but sure enough, they set a pattern in certain parts and then it starts to spread. So they're just starting to amplify things up in BC here as well right now.
So one of the key things that I think is coming up now is that this is when I was talking about before, things are getting closer and closer and closer. So, and where you can't sort of just let it off to the side anymore. So I had a conversation with a colleague of mine in Quebec the other day, and he said, yeah, it goes like, now like my kids are going to have to wear masks in school. I'm like, well, this is where now it's like you have to make your choice. So in my mind, it's like, this is what starts to speak loudly is, if that doesn't resonate, then you figure a way to like pull your kids out and start to teach them at home. Like you start to change things. Like you can't only go with the system for so long if it doesn't work and it doesn't resonate with you anymore. So some people maybe are going and speaking up, but it's like, there's only so much that gets done. I think at this point, in that type of a situation, great, my kids are going to be staying at home and we're going to figure out, and this is what we're seeing now in this community. We've already seen posts where teachers coming out and, okay, we've got my children, I've got 2 children and we need to get teacher now and we're going to get a couple of other families, and that's all taking place. And if that sort of thing, if it doesn't resonate with you to have your child in with a mask on all day long in school, then you make an adjustment. And like I think Magenta and Huna talked about, the angels are there, like they will step up when you jump in alignment with that light in action.
Yeah,
like the stuff starts to happen. We always find that when you act from a place of courage, it seems to be rewarded, and things work out in certain ways, and in ways that you would never be able to plan. So this is, to me, when we talk about this light in action, it's like Huna was saying, like really connect with who you are. Know when something doesn't resonate, and then can you start to act more from that authentic place within yourself with courage and lovingness, and then see what opens up for you, because that's what's going to start to create this beautiful new world that I think we're moving towards.
Yeah, I think Magenta even had spoken about that months ago. I think the situation in the UK it's more challenging than it was at that time in Canada. And you were saying at that point, if I had kids and if I had any children in school, I would be pulling them out right now. And we're seeing this is the time in Canada where a lot of parents that I've been speaking to are coming face to face with that. It's like, are you willing to leave your children within the school system that is threatening to give the jab at no notice?
All right, so that's just another aside because it came up as you were talking about that with the mother bear, because we're seeing a lot of mother bears starting to step up in the sort of communities that we're around, and that's to me. I was just talking to a patient the other day, and she was trying to connect with the feeling of this light in action as a conversation we were having around, and she was trying to even understand what that meant, and she has kids, so I said, did you ever get the feeling at some point where you knew something was going on with your child, and no matter what someone told you, it didn't make any difference because you knew, and there was no way you were going to act outside of that alignment? And she's like, oh yeah. I was like, that's the same thing. That is the light in action, but that's what you got to do now for yourself. We have to kind of all connect to that same type of that power that I think is within every one of us.
And then maybe going back to Dr. Northrop's question
This
to
one.
Magenta and Huna with regards to, what should we call it? We'll call it this. And the repercussions, the long-term effects of what this could mean for humanity. Maybe Magenta, will start with you and check in with Huna.
Okay, so we'll start with Magenta.
Sorry, I was just unmuting. You can draw a sort of a connection really between and school, because when you're looking at other countries and thinking, oh, well, that's not happening here, you have to realize that the agenda is global. And if it's happening somewhere, it could happen where you are. The agenda is global. That's really important. Don't start thinking, oh, well, we're in this country, that won't happen here. Maybe it won't, but the agenda is for this to be global. And when it comes to the schools, I've been saying since day one, schools are no longer a safe place for children. If you think that they won't go into your school and give your child without you knowing, even if you've written something down saying that you don't consent, if you find some trust for your school, then I think you really need to look hard and long at why you have trust for the school. Now, if it's an independent school like the Rudolf Steiner or Montessori or an independent school, absolutely. But if it's run by the system, you cannot afford to trust that school, even if you love your teachers. But as we've all been saying, those angels will come and you will find people. And if you are in that energy and you're in that joy and you have that courage, but that potentially will lead you to home education or homeschooling. So yes, if it was me, no child of mine would be in school. And I'm repeatedly telling my own children this for my grandchildren. And they're always asking me, what do you see? What do you see? And I'm saying, it's all right now. The minute I see something before it happens, and I hope they listen to me and pull their kids out. And I'll be making videos about that for the whole of the UK, for every parent that follows me. But regarding so Dr. Christiane is completely correct. There is a choice that is being made at the moment within this bifurcated reality. And the choice is going forward into an ascension experience now in this cycle that you incarnated for. Or, now you've all made that choice. That's in everyone's blueprint, or you wouldn't be incarnated here. So that's one level. Other level to that is when you are in incarnation, despite being guided into your blueprint, you have a free will, and that's a whole other subject. But let's just look at the concept that you have free will. You can make the choices. You have the right to choose not to go through an ascension process. But the majority of people don't realize they're making this choice because they don't know about ascension. Even if they hear about ascension, they don't believe in ascension because they don't understand ascension. And ascension is only one word to explain evolution of the human genome, the human consciousness, the human physical vehicle, and everything that goes with it. It's all about this increasing in light and everything that Huna is saying about returning back to the Lemurian energy. So you have multiple pathways in front of you that are given to you as opportunities to be able to make this decision. But one huge big one, which from where I am seeing and the information I'm getting, this is the biggest aspect, the biggest opportunity to make that choice is the. So what you are doing when you take the is choosing not to go through an ascension process at this cycle, which you incarnated to experience. So you are moving away from your blueprint. There's no judgment there. You have free will. And we, those who do not take the, must be aware that those that don't want to take it have the right to not know the truth. They have the right to not understand. They have the right to choose to not ascend. Now, it isn't as black and white as all this, because obviously I have people write to me, oh, you're saying you won't ascend if you take the. So that's the generalized situation. But there are caveats within that. These caveats are rare. The majority of people that take the are not going to go through ascension this time around. And I think that's so important for everyone to know. It isn't said in fear. It isn't said because, you know, I'm a horrible spiritual teacher who wants to deliver a nasty message to you all. It's the truth. And we must understand this. Having said that, there are caveats. So there are different types of, and some of the, one can go through detoxification. Now, it's not just about detoxing. It's not just about drinking a green smoothies and meditating. You have to be completely committed. You have to move into absolute spiritual discipline. And that's everything that we've been saying. That's the courage. You have to take the leap before you start to see evidence that your courage is working, as Dr. Christiane and Huna are both saying in their own ways. That's how it works. So if you're at work and you're saying, look, I have to get the, why do you have to get the, you're not being forced, no one's being forced. Oh, well, yes, I am, because if I don't, I will lose my job. So that's your decision. You're making a decision on the third dimension with third dimensional information. I need this job because I need to earn money, because I need to feed my family, and I need to pay the mortgage, and I need to pay the bills. That's what you're using to make your decision, and that is all completely accurate. But what you're not doing is looking at the other dimensional perspectives. So you are not making a fully informed decision, because you are not saying to yourself, if I take the, I'm not going to go through an ascension process this time around, which is what I incarnated to do. So one needs to be multidimensional in their awareness before one makes the choice and understand how the universe works. So you decide, okay, I'm going to stand up and say, I'm not going to have the, and I'm prepared to lose my job. And as Dr. Christiane said, be prepared to be on the streets, in a tent, starving. And if you are in the position where you think, you know what, I will sleep in a tent, starving, hungry in the forest, but I will not compromise my boundaries. When you make that decision and you live that way, that's when the universe floods into you. That's when this salvation, if you will, comes in the form of light, because you've stood up as a warrior. You've been knighted. You've taken that sword of Excalibur and you have said, I will not compromise my soul's mission, which is ascension. But you have to make that leap of faith. And I know it's hard, but that's what this bifurcated reality is there to teach us. It's here to show us the strength that we have, the courage we have. It's here to show us what it really means to be human. And that's not to be cowering in the corner and allowing tyranny to take us over. It's not to be that. Being truly human is to stand up and be that warrior. So when you're in that position, you then stand up and say, I'm not going to take the, and you never know, the next day, nothing is said, as Dr. Christiane said actually happened, and that person doesn't actually lose their job. Or guess what? They do lose their job. They get dismissed. And they're in the tent in the back garden with nothing. And then something happens. They meet someone, and somewhere, miraculously, they're offered an even better job than they could ever dream possible. Or somebody helps them, or they do something worthwhile, or they get taken into another pathway. That is what the nine are calling new earth. And it's everywhere. It's not a place. It's everywhere. It's running through us all the time. When we line up with it, we will go out our front door, spend a day out, and everyone we meet, if we're in that vibration, everyone we meet will be aware in some way, or someone who's a master for you and is teaching you something, or someone who you are a master for because you're teaching them something. And if you are coming across a brick wall and resistance to you, then that again is also an opportunity, because you think to yourself, could I have played that differently? Was that a time when I should have perhaps been in disguise, kept my head down, put a mask on? Or should I have stood up, kept my mask off and said to that person, this, and this? Do I do it with joy? Do I do it with strength? We have all these opportunities and all of these choices. But regarding specifically, the caveats are, if you decide you've already had and you decide that you do still want to go through ascension, you think, gosh, I didn't realize that this was such a big decision, and what can I do? If you are committed and your spirituality and your path is taken with great discipline, then some of these can be detoxed from, and they would be detoxed from on a physical level and on a spiritual level. My role is to assist people with the energy body and the spirituality. And that's one part of it. But you would need to go find someone like Dr. Christiane, somebody who is an aware doctor or a naturopath or a homeopath or an acupuncturist, someone aware to assist you with the physical side of things. So that's some of them that can be detoxed from. But it is a difficult journey, and there's no guarantee that you will detox enough on the spiritual level to catch the ascension train, if you will. But some could, but these are rare individuals. So, as I said, these caveats are caveats. And then there are these other forms of where what's happening within the cellular structure is irreversible. And the majority of those people, no matter how much they detox, how much they work spiritually, that can't be eradicated. It can't be changed. As Dr. Northrup is saying, this is about cyborg, artificial intelligence, changing the cellular structure into something completely outside of what it means to be human. Now, there are caveats there. If you went into receiving that type of, without realizing what you were doing, and you already have light and activation, there is a possibility that you may be able to keep that substance in a dormant state while you go forward. Ascension, if you've taken that type of, is unlikely. I'm not going to say a big no, because there's always caveats and there are things that could happen. But it is very important for everyone to realize that there is a physical representation of your choice. And what it means when you take it, it isn't just about your job or about money or about your parents are telling you that you're going to have to leave the house if you don't have it. Call their bluff. Say to them, I'm not having it. I'll pack my bags then, and actually do it. Be prepared to do it, to sleep on your mate's sofa or be in a tent in someone's garden. Be prepared to do that. And you are showing the universe and your true self the courage of your convictions and your integrity. There is going to be a cleanup situation, because I see and have always seen that many people who will come to this realization through multiple means, not just through spiritual means, through other means, medical means, and they will regret. So they will want to go into some form of healing and rehabilitation. So what I will say is, it is possible that some of these individuals, they are rare, the nine are telling me, but it is possible some of them could go through ascension this time. But the majority, of course, they will ascend. And what will actually happen, those who do take and regret that situation, but move into this committed, disciplined spirituality and go through this detoxification, If they don't make the ascension this time around, next time they will be the teachers and the leaders on the front line, because they almost made it this time. So the ones that almost make it will be leaders, and they will make it then. You know, in the ground, everyone goes through ascension, everyone. So this is the information that I've interpreted from what I'm seeing from the 9, but I'm fully aware that different are saying different things, and some are saying, yes, it's not a problem. Your consciousness can sort it out. Your consciousness is powerful. That's all true. Others are saying, once you take it, your soul is basically severed from your physical body. Well, you need to see all these different perspectives and understand what it means, and go within, and don't take what I'm saying as gospel. Go within and look at your own knowing and ask yourself, Magenta's just said all this stuff. Is it true? Show me. Follow your own guidance. That's what's important. But that's the information that I have. Now, I do have videos on my I've been looking into this recently, because it's so very, very important. And one of the questions isn't just about what happens when you take it's what happens, and I won't go into that, obviously let other people speak, but what happens to those who don't take are they at risk by being around those that have had and that's a whole other concept, and kind of that's where I am, because those people are going through ascension, and those people are being targeted as well through the back door, because the target is consciousness itself. So if we can get this into a high number of people, then that will be passed to everyone. The agenda, and we have ways that we can stand up in sovereignty with that. And that's when I received all this information about the black flame, and you can use crystals, and I have my black shungite here with me, and I've got obsidian organite with tourmaline, and I've got my obsidian pendant. So there are ways that we can work with the energy body and become a master of our energy system. And I'm sure on a physical level, there's things that we can do. And that would be sort of, Dr. Northrop's arena. And a lot of people are asking me sort of medical based questions that I simply cannot respond to on a physical level, as I'm a teacher with the energy system. But that's a whole different question, a whole different subject. But what I would say to those people that are concerned, who are not getting about being around people that have had I would say that what I am seeing is those people do what they're here to do. And that is to create this unification amongst humanity when we all step up together, so we can assist and shield those who for this time are not going through ascension for whatever reason. It's their choice. But for those who want to go through an ascension and are in the trajectory for that, they absolutely will. That's the eventuality, and that is the inevitability. If that's what you want and you take all the steps for that, it's your mission, then that's where you are going to go. And that's what New Earth is all about. Now, we're in it now.
Thank you, Magenta.
All right. There's lots of stuff there too. And I know what you were talking about too with that reminds me similar to some of the stuff that even Oracle Girl had been talking about as well. And there were like concerns around even in sort of reincarnation next time. I know one of the things that she had said was that from her understanding of it, you wouldn't be coming back to Earth again. You'd come back somewhere else, but you sort of would not be connected to this specific place. So
because the Earth is raising in its frequency, right. And so your light or your frequency would not match, or would not make it possible for you to be able to come back to Earth.
So it's an interesting one. Huna, you're back on here with us, so why don't you share your thoughts on that too?
Yes, thank you very much, Magenta and Dr. Northrop. And Huna Wakamaro and Huna Pakalema. Let me just say something. Let me just shout out to Taya and Jason, who are sealed in the living light from a ceremony that I have the privilege of doing on this planet, which is of the Kumara. And so I I want to share that they, of course, they're wonderful hosts, and thank you. But I'm sharing this because the seal of the living light is the alignment to the light of the child. And this is something that I'm very special and honored to do. And I have done for almost 3 decades. And those thousands have been sealed in this living light. What does this mean? And I'm going to move over to what the subject was, but I'm going to come into it from this side. That we are in the living light planet. Gaia, in 2017, Gaia was the planet, Mother Earth, was set on and ready to allow 3 billion souls to be lost. Let me share that again. In 2017, I was part of a Trinity team to influence Gaia to not drop 3 billion souls. And we've done ceremonies at sacred places, including in the UK, to ensure and guarantee that. Now, there's still 7 to 8 billion people on the planet. So we managed to convince Gaia to raise their frequency and ascend to feminine without losing 3 billion. And even all the way through 2020 to 2020, when this agenda came in, it was heavy, right? I was in Egypt doing a ceremony for 12 days with my Hunas, 12 of us. Very important ceremony, very important protocols to call in the technical support of and return everything from the ancient civilizations of mankind to Lemuria. We finally completed on the 12th day on Mount Sinai, where we completed with the coronation ceremony to crown them all. This was before Corona, just before Corona got popular. Right after that, during that ceremony, the Giza Plateau flooded, the pyramids got flooded, Jerusalem got flooded, and Jordan got flooded. And that was what we were asking for. We were asking for it to be wiped clean. And I had said to the shaman, the Egyptian grandmother shaman, who is the authority in the Giza Plateau, her name is Shazara. She's heavily connected to Lemuria and Hawaii. And I had said to her, we're going to do these ceremonies. We're walking through the plateau. We're going to do these water ceremonies we're doing. We're going to bring purification. 3 days after we left Cairo, it flooded. It started flooding and raining, and it wouldn't stop. So it was not sacrificing. The question was not a sacrifice, it was a cleansing and purification. Now, if I can take it as the seal of the living light aligning to the highest intentions of also at the time for the planet, not having dumped 3 billion, but we also understand today that we are at the lowest levels, right, of loss of life than ever when we have, there have been some, let me say, positives. So Magenta calls caveats. There has been some positives where the dark is pushing the light to come out even stronger. And so the mask, somebody asked me back in February, what do you think of this whole thing that's coming, the mask and stuff? I said, it'll be a moment of one consciousness. It's going to pull us together. The same way as it did in 2012 when it pulled us together inside the consciousness again back then. And so that is, let me just say, that was a positive. And then I carried on with my practices and missions to clear other levels and other areas that were asked to be completed. And I invite those who are listening to and watching to understand this. Perhaps you were a part of that, what you were doing. Even if you decide to take this, take that. Even if you're deciding to take that, right? I'm not going to say you're wrong. As absolutely, you're not wrong, and that's what Magenta said. You're not wrong. We're all saying you're not wrong. I'm going to say you're on the front lines, and you're putting yourself on the front line. What is this lesson? for me to stick to my mission, which is to, as I've shared, to guarantee that the new earth birthing system through the womb of conception inception is coming, will no longer be entering through an astral field or a magnetic field. The child of light will come directly through the Kumara crystal of the light of days into the womb. Meaning, those who are on the front lines are already the angels that are the technical support today, now, here, right now, in all nows. If this is a matrix that truly people say and speak of, and if this is all an illusion, and we're just playing tricks on each other, and I won't say you're wrong. If you're playing your part in this revelation, this movie of revelations and revealings, right? For me to make sure I can complete my mission is that when you arrive again, you will be arriving in the highest of light. You will no longer be arriving inside of the magnetic field where you have been attacked on your way in previously. And so you will be rewarded. You will be rewarded. Let me say again, you will be rewarded and gifted. Well, if this is a matrix and we're all playing tricks on one another, I'm going to give you a reward right now. I'll be happy to give you a certificate right now. Right? So you're not wrong. And even if you're going to be the rebel raccooning and up against this in this light in action, up against this agenda, and you got to go and sit in your tent, you're on the front line. You're not wrong. You're absolutely correct in whatever decision you make, because you are still here. Now, understand, you are still here. You take that shot, you'll still be here, because there's others in the technical support that's going to come and throw you into a technology that's going to help you. And yes, we are asking for this to happen right away. We're asking for it to happen yesterday. Okay, we know the technology is here to support each other. So what is this fear of the matrix? What is this fear of this illusion? What is this fear of, what is that? Oh yeah, there's something that the lowest lords of the lowest realms in this little teeny, teensy, teeny little bit of the universe that's remaining in the the vertebrae of the human, right? It's a coding in the DNA, right? What is that? And so you take this, I commend you. Really do. For those who are not wanting to do this, I commend you too. You are still on the planet here. And Gaia had said she will not release the 3 billion, meaning the raising of the vibration. Somebody had shared, oh, we'll go through another 26,000 year cycle. I would like to share that this planet is directly connected to the central sun now. We need no cycles. We are directly connected to the living light. It is not a matter of cycling around anything anymore. We're directly connected. This is the changes that's happening, meaning the seal of the living light is guaranteed that when you do decide to do this, you will be rewarded. Am I just spilling out a whole bunch of gook or woo-woo? Yeah, I am. Is this a matrix? Are we just playing tricks on one another? Huh? Are we laughing about it in the back room or down there in the lowest realms and not the highest realms? And the angels are at the gates and at the doors anyway, regardless. Not to disregard the question and the topic. I'll go here again because you are still here on the planet, and until you are not, you have a lot of opportunity. Liberation and opportunity is now the office that's the label on the office of the archangels. It's no longer freedom and justice. It is liberation and opportunity. And that's what that is. Free yourself, whether you're going to do this or not, free yourself. And we commend you in your strength. And I'll just share again, you are not an illusion. You are a memory, and you are eternal, and you are here because I remember you. I remember you. Remember in the beginning when I said those words in the beginning, when we started the prayer, the karakia. I remember you, grateful for grateful for the breath, and then a breath without breath without water. You are here. Okay, so something else I would like to just touch on too is tomorrow is April 1st. I have a very important protocol ceremony I do every April 1st. It's an upload. April 1st is April Fool's Day. Are we just playing tricks on each other? Huh? It's April Fool's Day is tomorrow. I'm doing a ceremony of the continuum. It's in alignment with Stargate 17 and Stargate number 1. Stargate number 1 is in Corona, New Mexico. I activated that many years ago. Now it's ready, and it's calling for the fool to come forward. Who's the fool now? April 2nd is the download when the information is going to get dropped in, and we're going to laugh and just go and celebrate. Now, who's a fool now? There's all this game we're playing, and then be ready to receive. It's a bit woo-woo for you. That's fine. I am woo-woo. Okay? That's fine. You guys still love me anyway, right? And each other, right? Even if you woo-woo or not, right? Huh? Okay, so I'm sharing that protocol at first slide, and then in April 2nd is who's a fool now, because all of the gifting and the receiving is coming. You're going to be remembered and you're going to be rewarded. You are still here on the planet. After you take this, then great. We're going to be rewarding you. If you happen to transform and transfer to the formless, we're going to be there to commend you and reward you there too. We got a lot of love for you, everybody. You know what I'm saying? A whole lot of love. And so, does that help you? Well, I can only share that. And I know you're still on the planet. And even if you did the thing like this, and it takes you, and you only maybe last through a week or 2 weeks or a few weeks, that might be enough for you to receive the rewards for your participation here. Maybe that is your mission. But still smile and love you regardless. You are in the planet of living light. We are in divine union with you. We're one in the many, many in the one, and the technical support is here, not just from my heart and our fractal energy, but from the technology that's coming through. Okay? Sometimes these questions don't need to exist. I understand you've got to have a show though. And this is what brings me here. But let me just say some of those things. Again, the lowest lords, the highest, the lower lords of the lower realms are really really making out this to be a big deal. We're going to catch them at their game. We're catching them at their game here. And you do this, then we got your back. You do this, and you go into formless, we still got your back. All right? And we will remember you. We remember this moment. We have marker points throughout this year coming, beginning at the Lemurian New Year and the Burning Mass celebration, where all the elders of the earth elders are getting together in Corona, New Mexico, to remember you and to reward you with your coronation, to crown you, to recognize you. And those who are on the front line that have already taken this and then went like this. Yeah. What other words are there for this? But your power and the reward for your power and your love and your light, and the time you spent with us. Always remember you. Wairu Atapu. Wairu Atapu means we remember you, your sacred breath.
Huna, when you say Wairu Atapu, we remember you, so this idea of remembrance, this concept of remembrance, it implies that we are two things. We already know all that there is to know, and also that we are not separate, we are connected. We are always connected to one another. And so even when you speak of the 9 senses, and I'll ask you to quickly go over them with us in a moment, and as far as perceiving each other and our reality, at the end, there is again the remembering that we are actually not that separate. We're connected. We're one. Can you remind us of the 9 senses, Huna?
Sure, happy to. I see you. I hear you. I sense you. I touch you. I can sniff you. I can taste you. Because of these, I remember you. Because I remember you, I know you. Because I know you, 9th one is I am you. The higher vibrations of the 6. Now, the 9, let me share this. When I was in the mystery school, I was initiated at the Manuariki. One of the very basic classes and sharings is about the gods of the body, or the gods. And how many, or atua, we call atua, which means compartmental gods. Not the one God, but gods within the body, within form and formless. The fractal level, which are, of course, aligned to all star nations, and the memory and the knowledge within. That's how we got to create this form. It's an incredible form. Out of all beings in the universe, this form can withstand this density up to and into double density of the 24-strand DNA. We are accessing now. I will share on that. So the 9 senses are, in another sense, is to speak to them as the star nations within the body that support you, form and formless. They have many names, and then again we can say we are nameless. And light in action is not a name. Huna Mautataki, Kumarataki is not a name. It is an essence of my light, and how my light moves through the universe and or omniverses and inside of me. That is my personality. So we speak to the essence of a personality, a particular light moving in a particular way that is seen by many. And that is the expansion I ask for everybody as you expand and increase your fractal ability. The 9 senses, certainly as Magenta speaks of the 9, these are part of the 9 at the fractal level. We are really truly nameless, but we are light, and we do have this essence and character and personality. And mine comes out, hello, this is my light, and this is how my light moves. It's a bit of a raccoon pirate, it's a bit of this, it's a bit of an elder, a little bit of that, a little bit. That's my light. Doesn't have a name, but you can say, let there be light. Fine, I'm good with that. And so in the connection to the memory, in connection to remembering through these feelings and senses and these activations and initiations, let me say, the remembering is also of ancestral potentiality. Certainly, I can look back. Ancestral, historic, I can look back. I can look to the potentiality, and I can be present with both of them here now. This is Wairu Atapu. Some might feel it, and you might be initiated through a deja vu. That's just a tiny little taste of it. The Wairu Atapu is in the continuum. It's outside of light. Creation continuum is a new council that's forming and reorganizing many councils into the council of the continuum, which is outside of light. Creating light, creating source, creating souls, and helping souls to return to itself as we do that here. And so the continuum in any direction, multiple directions, multiple dimensions, of course, as Magenta says, but certainly the potentialities of the ancestral potentiality here now. That's why I say it this way. Are we playing tricks on one another? We're like, who's the fool now? We reward you regardless, in the form and in the formless. I'm not shuffling past your concerns, but I will go and ask you to be brave and have courage. But you are remembered. I remember many lifetimes that many have had, and the many sessions that I've sat through in the past 40 years of people that I've met in many lifetimes of my connections and each other. And we're sitting in a reality here right now where the five of us are in one reality. We have converged. And what we have here right in the screen right now, and all of those that are sharing, is trillions of multiple dimensions of our lifetimes. So much knowledge just sitting here right now. Dr. Northrop is a master because she has the training from many lifetimes. She just knows what she's doing. That from being a master of Anubis and of all the lifetimes and goddesses in the continuum. Same with Magenta and same with yourself. We bring all that right here now. And so those who are watching also are sharing that with us. You take this or you don't take that. Where are you going? You're already home. Whether you're in the terrestrial realm or the celestial realm, terrestrial womb or the celestial womb, where you think you're going, you're always going to be home.
Huna, thank you so much. And I know, Dr. Northrop, you've got another meeting here, probably in like 5 minutes here. So,
but maybe we can do a quick round. Are there any final thoughts you want to share with us, Dr. Northrop? I know there was a few questions that came up, but due to time, is there anything that you want to say to finish up at your end? Any final thoughts?
My final thoughts are that so many of you people have come on here with the most beautiful commentary. Mm-hmm. And this is the really the only podcast I've ever been on where we have the beauty of Magenta Pixie's channeling and Huna Flash, and then you two with the medical stuff to bring it all together. It has just been incredible for me. I have just loved it. And I still would say on the very 3D level, please, 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 whatever you can do to simply create your own personal atmosphere of sovereignty. And then the other thing I want to say is I'm seriously thinking of a dating app so that in the future your children can actually be with someone who has their regular divine God-given DNA. I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about what will be in the saliva, in the blood, in the seminal fluid. I'm not interested in being around it, and neither are my daughters. So just putting that out there.
Let us know about the dating app. That sounds exciting. So, and probably going to be well received. So. Dr. Thank you so much for being a part of it. It's such a pleasure being able to talk
Always.
To everybody. So,
and Dr. Northrop, we'll actually be seeing you in a few days again, back with our second roundtable. So Dr. Todd, Dr. McCready, yourself, Lynn McTaggart, as well as Huna will be back for that roundtable as well. So we look forward to seeing you there again. And if you should have questions for her, I apologize, just due to the timing, we weren't able to pass it on to Dr. Northrop, but do join us in that upcoming roundtable.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you both. And lovely to meet you finally, Magenta and Huna. It was wonderful. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Dr. Northrop.
Bye, Dr. Northrop.
Bye.
Magenta, any last words on your side here before we wrap everything up? I always love hearing your side of things too. It's always right from the beginning when we came across your material too. I found like it felt like also felt like being kind of wrapped up in a warm hug a little bit too, and like some serious
very, very clear as well.
Clarity. It brought a lot of clarity and reassurance to what we were thinking too, and validity to what we were kind of feeling. So. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Can you unmute?
Can you hear me? Okay. I said I am sat here blissed out after listening to Huna. And, you know, his energy is so familiar to me because it reminds me of the nine, and the things that he says are the things the nine say to me before they sort of assist me in breaking that down through the dimensions. And so I just like to say that despite everything I have said, everything Huna is saying is absolutely the, true reality. And when you look at it from that point of view, you can't make a mistake. You can't get anything wrong. You all come forward into that source energy. And as Huna was saying, there are gifts for all of you. And it doesn't matter whether you take the or not, because you are on your mission and you're on your path and everything is divine. And, the nine do teach me that. And it's interesting that Huna talks about the nine senses, because the nine presented themselves to me as nine white-winged beings. But then as our conversation sort of went forward over the years, they tell me that they are the neurotransmitters within my body. And so they're the cells within my body. And of course, the cells become organs, and then that becomes your emotions. And so the nine senses that Huna talks about, and the fact that he talks about looking back to the ancestors and looking forward and bring that all here now, that's the same sort of teaching that the nine show me. So there is such a connection there. Yet I also feel such an amazing connection with Dr. Northrup and what she just said about, a dating app, because some people aren't going to want to be with individuals in relationships with individuals who've had because what about the bodily fluids? And one of the teachings that I've been talking about recently is the fact that women, as the receptacle of energy, the womb, will hold on to energy and receive that energy. So the energetic signal given out by especially the ones that are more sort of AI-ish, the female can hold on to that. So I think my last words would be to everyone here is, I think it's just so important to integrate all these different perspectives. Everything Dr. Northrup said from the 3D medical level is just crucial to have your grounding. And everything that Huna is saying from the celestial cosmic oneness, which is still a huge multidimensional model that touches all realms, is also crucial for your spirituality. And so I'm just really happy to have been part of this presentation, because I think we have given a full spectrum of perspectives here between us all. So thank you for asking me to join you.
It's definitely our pleasure, Magenta, and that's really the whole thing. Is from our perspective, we've just heard lots of different things and are aware of different things from different people that are saying a lot of times similar concepts, but just in very different ways. And part of this is to bring it together so that people can hear it in lots of different ways, and then ultimately pull out what resonates,
And for those who are not aware and joining in, we've reached the end of a 15-part series. So we've spoken to Magenta a couple of times, wonderful, lengthy, juicy episodes with Magenta. So if you go back, it's available on YouTube. And Huna has been back with us numerous times as well. And I feel like, especially with Huna's episodes, I personally have to go back and watch it a few times, because like Huna, you say yourself, you're not really speaking a language. You're conveying a frequency, a vibration, and I've had to sit with it numerous times. And each and every one of you, we love you dearly. What you are contributing to humanity is beyond words, and we understand that you're actually taking heat for the stances that you take, for the information that you bring forth. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you to all of you too. Huna, do you have any last words that you want to mention before we wrap up?
such an honor to sit with you and meet with you and share with your wonderful wisdom, Magenta. I have been so fortunate to have experiential transmissions and videos over these few years, and so grateful and honored to have met Dr. Northrup and to be able to sit on this panel. And also for those who were visiting here from around the world, thank you all very much on the chats and on the live chats. And certainly, especially thank you to the Huna, for Jason and Taya, for Huna Wakamaro and Huna Pakarema, and one day perhaps you'll share your light essence of the Huna with, if you haven't already, and that in itself is a lesson of the 9, that in itself. And so so I'm so grateful to be here. Final last couple of words. Tomorrow, April 1st, smile and receive on April 2nd. Smile and receive. We are feeling your smile. Tomorrow, the birth sign for the creature that has the biggest smile on the planet, which is the gecko. It's the birth sign. He arrives tomorrow, or the being, he and she, arrives tomorrow on April 1st, which is already in New Zealand right now. So that is supported. Your smile and your smile and be ready to receive is coming to you. Just be ready to receive the benevolence.
Thank you, Huna. And for those who are asking, we will have all the guest information in the captions, but Huna's website is hoh.earth, hoh.earth. And Magenta, can you remind us of the best place to find you for guests to connect with you as well, please?
Yes, it's magentapixie.com. And if you go on there, you will see my social media links as well. I'm pretty active on Telegram and also have quite a big group on MeWe, and I'm on Instagram. There was just one thing I remembered I'd like to say. It's really interesting, Huna, that you say that your sign is a hummingbird, because I had a hummingbird sign over the last sort of 48 hours. And I've been trying to work out why that was there. So I just want to acknowledge that, because that's the first time the hummingbird has come into my reality. And when you mentioned it, I'm sat here thinking, wow, it's the hummingbird. So I had to just mention that.
We actually had a hummingbird come and fly right to the window as we are engaging in this conversation just about maybe half an hour ago.
Just to share before you go, because of dissolving the codes from the agenda of the scope of horrors we are moved into, Jupiter and Saturn are on the light side, are in the house of Huna for the next 22 years. And it came in a year ago and it went out and came back in again. Why am I saying this? Because Aquarius was swallowed by the hummingbird. In other words, the breath. The breath that Aquarius is now gone to the highest vibration, which is the hummingbird. That's why I share it this way in that cosmology. You can picture this, because that support is in the birth signs and certainly all of the 12 that are here. And so I will share that just so you understand that parero, which in the language means Saturn and Jupiter are on the right side. They are not with the shadow. They're not with Satan. This is the blueprint of Saturn and Jupiter, which is mother and father energies. Jupiter being Mother Earth energies, Saturn being Sky Father, and on the light side. So I share that as you're witnessing the hummingbird, or even the fantail, or even the koremako, which is the bellbird, the relatives on the other continents. So I thank you for sharing that, Magenta. And these are some of the things. There's a lot to share.
No, we could definitely do these again. Maybe we'll set something up down the road again too. But Wonderful being able to talk to all of you again. And thank you, everybody, for joining in and for all the participation. I mean, a lot of beautiful sharing in here, too. You know, we're seeing
really
at one point,
heartwarming.
Magenta, when you were talking about, you know, even being out on a tent and this kind of stuff, there was one lady, I think Michelle, who had mentioned there that they actually have a property where they're actually going to be putting up cottages to support people that need support and stuff too. So I so love hearing this, and I love seeing the community build. So our hearts to yours. Thank you so much.
That was so nurturing. Thank you.
Yes. All right, everybody. Take care. Please share, spread the message around, and we'll talk to you all soon.